Steve, recently we asked you if America would be better off with Romney as president versus Barack Obama. And I want to ask you a question in light of some of opinions people had last when the election took place. Is voting for the lesser of two evils, I guess, a good reason to vote for somebody? Along those lines, would America be better off with John McCain? And no, I'm not saying they're either are evil. It's just a phrase and a statement. But
no, I'll be happy to say that.
Okay, would America be better off with McCain as president?
Well, first of all, I think you have to define what is the lesser of two evils. Okay, I mean, that is such a subjective standard. I can define that any way that I want, and that's what human nature is like. I mean, we don't like objective standards. We don't like to be reminded that we're not basically good, that we're not our own little demigods, that we're not really in charge down here. We don't like to be reminded of that. So we prefer to exist in subjective moralism where we can say, yes, I'm an absolutely wicked heathen who deserves hell, but my wickedness isn't nearly as wicked as yours, so I'll be in the cooler spot of hell than you, which makes me better than you. That's often how we like to justify ourselves, and it's no longer justification by faith, it's justification by self. So you have to define for me what is the lesser of two evils. Secondly, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, you go to a Lutheran church, so you'll like that reference, John. Dietrich Bonhoeffer once said, to be very careful about promoting the lesser of two evils, for it is the lesser evil that may end up being the greater one than the greater one you're trying to avoid. I mean, you look at Mr. McCain's record, for instance. I mean, Mr. McCain signed on to McCain-Feingold, which was one of the greatest infringements on free speech rights in American history. Mr. McCain suspended his campaign back during the presidential election in order to promote the TARP sellout of America, where you and I ended up bailing out the very same people at Wall Street and government regulators who stole our money from us in the first place. So based on those things in terms of past history, I don't understand how anybody could possibly explain to me that John McCain would be doing things dramatically different than what Barack Obama is currently doing them. He's just a little bit older and a slower driver, John. So while Barack Obama would be in the very left-hand lane, passing all the cars on the nosedive over the cliff, John McCain, he's a Sunday older driver. He'd probably be going about 35 in the right lane, but going in the exact same direction. One guy wanted to break into a steady jog towards Gomorrah. The guy we have right now would like to break into a dead sprint. So if you define that as the lesser of two evils, then okay, I guess you can have that. Me, I think what we need is some leaders that are going to take us in the opposite direction, not just take us in baby steps towards the direction we're going now. So how someone could ever look at John McCain's record, I mean, you're talking about a guy that stood up in the Senate and said defending marriage was, quote, the most un-Republican, unquote, thing he had seen as a U.S. senator. I don't understand how he was not pro-life. I don't understand how anybody could come to the conclusion that what we're seeing out of Mr. Obama is dramatically different than what we would have seen out of Mr. McCain. In fact, Mr. Obama's actually gone to the right when it comes to what he campaigned on when it came to the war. I tried telling people on my radio show all of last year, we're not pulling out of Iraq. I don't care if Ralph Nader wins the election, and I'm right. In fact, we're sending more troops to Afghanistan. We're sending more advisors to Pakistan, where we're going to be in a war there probably in the next year or two. He hasn't really reversed any of the Bush doctrine in terms of foreign policy. So, McCain would have done very many of the same things in terms of foreign policy that Mr. Obama has done as well. So I fail to see, just like when we talked about this last week, Mr. Romney's healthcare massacre of Massachusetts is exactly what Mr. Sotaro is planning for America. And many of the same things that Mr. Sotaro is advocating, John McCain was all for as a globalist too, just he wanted to take baby steps to get there instead. So I guess if you like going over a cliff fast, then Mr. Obama's your guy. If you prefer to see that great crevice coming before you fall down it head first, then you probably wanted Mr. McCain to win. Either way, you were going over the cliff.